BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, it's Anna Hill here with the Farming Today podcast. Another case of foot and mouth is reported, this time in Hungary. Are UK border controls good enough to keep farmers here safe?
We know there are people who deliberately try to bring in product fraudulently. It happens around the world and it's always a concern, absolutely.
We'll have more in just a moment. First, all this week we're taking a closer look at the work of agricultural contractors. They're used by over 90% of farms, often to carry out specific jobs. JSE Systems Ltd near Grantham in Lincolnshire specialises in supplying, delivering and spreading fertilisers across much of the East Midlands. Bob Walker went to meet Managing Director Nick Johnson.
This is a map that we use just for general planning. We work over a large part of the east and part of the UK from the Humber to the Thames. This map is showing where all our diesel drops are and the different coordinators that work the different areas.
That's a big old area.
It is, but that is the breadbasket of the UK. It's where British agriculture, from an arable point of view, is based. Well, our main business is spreading. We spread a lot of fertiliser, which we have a number of specialist machines for, mainly JCB, Fast Track and Breed All Spreader based. We do about 500,000 tonnes of muck spreading a year. We have a fleet of self-propelled diggers and spreaders and other ancillary equipment to support that operation. Just changing a bucket on a loading shovel. We use that to load our machines, load our spreaders with materials.
How crucial are your services for the farming industry, particularly in this part of the world?
Because of the nature of specialist equipment, contractors have been able to specialise in this high value equipment and then spread that value across a number of farming customers that wouldn't otherwise be able to afford that specialist kit on their own farm.
So, Nick, the business has been around for quite a long time.
Yes, so my father developed the business in the early 70s, himself and one man. We're up to over a dozen full-time and seasonally up to over 40 people now.
What are the challenges going forward, do you see?
I'm coming up to 50 years old. I've been in the business for over 30 now. I've never felt as down about our industry. Agriculture has been epitomised by optimists. In 2025, for the first time ever that I've known, the industry is showing some real pain and real concern about where the future of British agriculture is going.
What are your main concerns?
Fundamental profitability. Commodity prices are fundamentally very low at the moment, and we've got a government that appears to be more inclined to plaster over very good Lincolnshire food-growing countryside with solar panels.
I mean, I travel to the east of England a lot. I see fields full of crops. I see people working in the fields. On a superficial level, everything seems fine.
Well, you only need to look today. I could name you 4 big businesses that have got auctions going on today where the business is either packing up or changing in structure.
They're going to impact on you?
Absolutely. Year on year, we are losing customers, not on the basis that we haven't done a good job. It's the fact that the customers just aren't there. That is why we are all continually trying to diversify, and Joe next to me here is looking at new ideas. We're trying to spread our risk.
Joe Hampsey, I'm Operations Director. There are a lot of contractors in the last couple of years that have decided, no, we're going to close shop. We are probably going to be under more stress and more pressure to do more jobs and cover a bigger range of services because there's less contractors out there.
But on a positive side, it's more work for you guys, isn't it?
If we want to take the risk and we're willing to take the risk and it's a viable opportunity, yes. And I think there's a lot of big contractors out there that are only going to get bigger.
It sounds brutal, Nick, but good for you.
Yes and no. We need a resilient and profitable agricultural industry out there that's looking to invest in the future. And if they're not, well, we will have to look at taking our investment funds and doing something else.
Nick Johnson in Lincolnshire. A case of foot and mouth has been identified on a dairy farm in the North West of Hungary, near the border with Slovakia. It follows cases being identified in Germany in January. Although it poses no risk to human health or food safety, foot and mouth is a highly contagious disease affecting cloven-hoofed animals, including cattle, pigs and sheep. There haven't been any cases in the UK since 2007, but many will remember the widespread outbreak back in 2001, which led to millions of animals being culled. In a moment, we'll look at the response here in the UK, but first, BBC Central Europe correspondent Nick Thorpe, who's based in Budapest, gave me the latest update.
The outbreak was discovered on a dairy farm in a village called Kisbojc. This is in northwestern Hungary, right on the border with Slovakia. It's actually where the river Danube forms the border with Slovakia. It's near the city of Győr. The various symptoms were noted in the cattle. The authorities, national authorities, then international authorities were notified. And what's been happening since then is obviously for the farmers the sort of very sad procedure of slaughtering those cattle and burying them deep in a ditch to try and prevent the virus from spreading.
So does that mean that all cattle on those premises were culled out?
That's right. All of them are being culled. I understand they have a capacity of killing and disposing of the carcasses of 300 to 400 cattle a day. We're talking about initially at least 1,400 cattle. So I think obviously the majority have already been killed, and perhaps the last ones are being killed today or potentially tomorrow.
And is there a restriction zone around the area? And is Slovakia also taking action as well?
Several layers of protection zones are in place now. Initially, there's a 3-kilometre protection zone and then a 10-kilometre surveillance zone. So this is obviously, a very agricultural part with very good soil close to the Danube of a country with a huge agricultural area. Most of the territory of Hungary as a relatively flat country with good soil is farmed, is used for arable or cattle farming. So, and as you say, this being so close to Slovakia, just a kilometre from the border with Slovakia, means that in Slovakia too protective measures and a lot of surveillance are taking place. But obviously it's of enormous concern, so much so that even the Hungarian Prime Minister, Viktor Orbán, travelled to the farm to look at the preventive measures being taken there.
How are farmers feeling about it? Because there hasn't been an outbreak in Hungary, I believe, since 1973. So it's been a long time, hasn't it?
It has been a long time. Obviously, farmers are devastated in that immediate area, and they're devastated across the whole country. As a major meat exporting country and dairy exporting country, some of the sort of signature exports from Hungary are things like salamis, famous, there's a pig salami down in Szeged, various spiced salamis, and apart from all the ordinary, as it were, farmyard cattle, Hungary is also an exporter of venison, for example. So these are things that are very both symbolic and financially important for Hungary. I think the actual exports, I was reading meat and meat-related exports from Hungary in 2023 were something like 1.5 billion euros.
BBC Central Europe correspondent Nick Thorpe. Well, imports from Hungary and Slovakia of meat and other animal products have been banned from entering the UK to try to stop the disease spreading. A similar ban has been in place on products from Germany following cases there in January. But concerns have been raised that animal products have still entered the UK from Germany since then. Last week, Lizzie Wilson from the National Pig Association told MPs on the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Select Committee that the UK's auto clearance system, which allows loads to self-declare as low risk before crossing the border, had let some banned products through.
There's evidence of it still being active, allowing products of animal origin in from Germany last week or the week before. There's combined products, EU products that have German products for animal origin within them that I think are still able to be released. It's a constant concern. It's constant anxiety inducing for our producers that they know it's literally just across the water, and the evidence suggests that not enough is being done to prevent an incursion.
Lizzie Wilson. Well, we did ask to speak to someone from DEFRA about border checks, but they weren't able to provide an interview. The department did tell us it's a legal requirement for businesses to be compliant with the UK government's biosecurity controls. In a statement, it said,
"The government will do whatever it takes to protect our nation's farmers from the risk posed by foot and mouth disease. That's why restrictions were immediately brought in on susceptible animals from Hungary and Slovakia and their products to prevent an outbreak. These goods are not permitted to enter the country. Any consignment carrying them will not progress through our clearance system and will be stopped at the border."
Well, Christine Middlemiss is the UK's Chief Veterinary Officer. She told me we don't know yet if this latest case in Hungary is related to the ones in Germany.
I know that they will be looking at the strain of the virus and the specific genetic typing, and that will tell us the relatedness to the German outbreak. So we don't know that at the moment. There are no obvious, that we're aware of, clear risk pathways from the German outbreak to the Hungarian one. The Germans took a lot of action. The virus hasn't spread in Germany, so it would be a really unusual jump to Hungary, but unusual jumps happen. But also, of course, there's a potential for another risk pathway from a country out with the EU to have been the source of disease as well.
Farmers here understandably are feeling pretty nervous about foot and mouth. Is there anything they can be doing, or is it just a matter of hoping it doesn't get here?
Vigilance and awareness, as always, are really important. Think about where you're sourcing from. Of course, as soon as we know that there is disease in a country, we take immediate steps to try and stop the virus coming here. But it's possible that product animals may have moved in the days and weeks before that. But vigilance for suspect cases. So if you have animals that develop mouth lesions, feet lesions, there's a number in a group, they have temperatures, please do report it either to your private vet or into APHA.
Now, given that the government veterinary service is busy with avian flu, of course, and also blue tongue, are your team ready, do you think, and do you have enough capacity to deal with foot and mouth if it did arrive in the UK?
So foot and mouth is really our top priority disease, and absolutely, whilst we maintained our HPI response, our attention has very much been turned to the foot and mouth outbreaks that are happening in Europe, and making sure that we are prepared as we possibly can be. But those first days of a disease outbreak, stepping up resource and getting people in the right place is always difficult.
Last week, the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Committee heard evidence that animal products from Germany have still been getting into the UK, despite a ban being in place because of the foot and mouth cases there in January. What's your response to that? And do you feel the border control is being handled well enough?
I was at EFRA and gave evidence last week, and they said they had evidence and been told about products getting in. We are following up that, but I don't personally have information on that.
OK. Does it worry you, though? Do you feel the border is secure?
Yeah, it worries me if there's product coming in. We know there are people who deliberately try to avoid things, who don't fill in export health certificates and so on, and deliberately try to bring in product fraudulently. It happens around the world, and it's always a concern, absolutely.
UK Chief Vet Christine Middlemiss. And that's all from us. I'm Anna Hill. The producer was Heather Simons. Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.